communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24 Daily Local News Update. I'm your host, Jasmine McTague, coming to you live from Jersey City, New Jersey. And now the details at this time. President Joe Biden on Tuesday said U.S. veterans were the backbone, the spine, the sinew of the nation as he pushed for better help for members of the military who face health problems, including after exposure to burn pits. You're the best of us, Biden said. For the president, the issue is very personal. At last week's State of the Union address, Biden raised the prospect of whether being near the chemical from pits where military waste was incinerated in Iraq led to the death of his son, Beau. We don't know for sure if a burn pit was the cause of his brain cancer or the disease of so many of our troops. Biden said in a speech, "But I'm committed to finding out everything we can." Biden travels with Veteran Affairs Secretary Dennis McDonough to Texas, where they visited the VA clinic in Fort Worth. There he met with veterans, including one who was stationed near a pit and later had 6 weeks of treatment and chemotherapy. Biden greeted a veteran named John, who was seated in the wheelchair, asking him, "How are you?" On to our next story. As he approaches 90, civil rights icon Andrew Young is turning to his late friend and colleague, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., for inspiration. During the civil rights struggle, King would say that we probably won't make it to 50. Young recalled in a January opinion column in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, but those who do have got to make sure to make it to 100 because there's a whole lot of work to be done. Young will celebrate his 90th birthday this month with a string of events that continue his long fight for equality and inclusion. Over 4 days starting Wednesday, the former Congressman, United Nations Ambassador, and Atlanta Mayor will deliver a sermon about harmony, a time walk aimed at fostering unity, and host a gala to raise funds for economic development and food security. On to our next story. A lawyer for one of the men charged with plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020 said Wednesday he was a near-homeless, pot-smoking misfit who was influenced by an FBI informant whom he met at a protest. Defense attorney Christopher Gibbons refuted a prosecutor's claim that Adam Fox was a mastermind of the 2020 plot against the Democratic governor. Adam Fox did not commit a crime in this case, Gibbons said during an opening statement in the federal courtroom in Grand Rapids, Michigan. four-man based trial. Fox Brandon, Castertaw, and Barry Crofts Jr. and Daniel Harris. Prosecutors say the men came up with the plan to snatch Whitmer in 2020 because they were angry about the pandemic restrictions she imposed. They accused of taking critical steps over several months, including secret messaging, gun drills in the woods, and night drives to northern Michigan to scout her second home and figure out how to blow up a bridge. Our next story. A jury told Judge Tuesday that failing to disclose his child abuse history during jury selection at the trial of British socialite Jasmine Maxwell was one of the biggest mistakes of his life, but an unintentional one. I didn't lie in order to get on this jury, the juror said. A U.S. judge questioned the juror extensively as part of an effort to decide whether the revelations about his personal history as a sex abuser survivor will spoil the verdict in the sex trafficking trial. Lawyers for Maxwell, who were present in the courtroom clad in the dark blue gel smock, say the verdict should be thrown out. Maxwell's lawyers potentially could have objected the man's presence on the jury on the grounds that he might not be fair to a person accused of similar crimes. Now a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. I'm your host, Jasmine McTague. Continuing on with the story of the hour. Rising gas prices pose a fresh election year challenge for President Joe Biden. He's balancing concerns about costs at the pump in the U.S. against calls from both parties to step up penalties on Russian President Vladimir Putin following his invasion of Ukraine. In announcing a ban on U.S. imports of Russian oil on Tuesday, Biden was blunt in the warning that while the move would hurt Putin, there will be a cost as well here in the United States. He sought to avoid being blamed for that by dubbing it Putin's price hikes. Later, while arriving on a visit to Texas, Biden was asked if he had a message for the American people about gas prices and responded, "They're going to go up. Can't do much right now," the president added in a response to the question. Russia is responsible. Continuing on our next story, U.S. and Russia. The United States believe Russia underestimated the strength of Ukraine's resistance before launching an invasion that was likely to cause thousands of Russian casualties. The Biden administration top intelligence officials told lawmakers Tuesday. The testimony in a hearing before the House Intelligence Committee amounted to the first public assessment of the two-week-old war by the nation's senior intelligence officials, who offered their insight into thinking and motives of Russian President Vladimir Putin as his forces continue their march through Ukraine. The officials made clear that Russia's assault has been slowed by the unexpected resistance by Ukrainian defenders, and that it was now uncertain if Putin will proceed with the maximalist strategy to try to capture all of Ukraine or would settle for something short of that. Either way, they said they believe he was determined to press his invasion forward despite mounting casualties, global sanctions, and efforts by the Western nations to isolate the Kremlin, including a U.S. ban on the Russian oil imports. Continuing on, the Pentagon. So the Pentagon on Tuesday rejected Poland's surprise announcement that it would give the United States its MiG-29 fighter jets for use by Ukraine, a rare display of disharmony by NATO's allies seeking to boost Ukrainian fighters while avoiding getting caught up in the wider war with Russia. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby said Poland's declaration that it's intended to deliver the 28 jets to the U.S. Ramstein Air Base in Germany raised the concerning prospect of war plans, departing from the U.S. and NATO base to fly into airspace contested with Russia in Ukraine conflict. We will continue to consult with Poland and our other NATO allies about this issue and the difficult logistical challenges it presents. But we do not believe Poland's proposal is a tenable one, Kirby said in its statement. The proposed gift of more warplanes would be a moral booster for Ukrainians under pounding Russian assaults for nearly 2 weeks. But it also raises the risk of the war expanding beyond Ukraine. On to our next story, talking about Russia and Ukraine. So even though Russia has lost influence and friends since the collapse of the Soviet Empire in 1989, the nuclear superpower still holds sway over several of its neighbors in Europe and keeps others in an uneasy neutrality. The Russian invasion of neighboring Ukraine and the humanitarian tragedy it provoked over the past 2 weeks have raised a Western outcry of heartfelt support and spawned calls for a fundamental rethink of how the global political map of Europe should be redrawn in the future. To anchor that in the reality of 2022 is far more difficult than many appear at first sight. Nudging Ukraine, Europe's second biggest country, fully into the Western fold against the will of Moscow poses massive problems, and European Union leaders will confront them together head-on during what could become a bruising 2-day summit at Versailles, just outside Paris, starting Thursday, forced into the assessment by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky when he amazingly signed an official request to become an EU member last week. Now a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned if you want the story.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. I'm your host, Jasmine McTague, and now the story of the hour. Half of them children have fled Ukraine in less than 2 weeks since Russia invaded the country, officials said Tuesday, as Europe's worst refugee crisis since World War II grows by the day. The humanitarian situation in a country's besieged cities grow more dire, including the Mariupol, where bodies lay uncollected in the streets in hope for a massive evacuation of civilians, were dashed again. A Ukrainian military official said that the country needs an air defense system most of all. Satellite photos from Planet Lab PBS shows a buildup of Belarusian and suspected Russian helicopters at the Matrochly air base outside of Minsk, Belarus on Tuesday. An analysis believes flooding north of Kharkiv, yes, seen in satellite photos likely comes from Ukrainian forces trying to stop the Russian advance. Continue on to our next story, Germany. A court ruled Tuesday that Germany's domestic intelligence agency can designate the Alternative for Germany's Party as a suspected case of extremism, rejecting a suit by the far-right opposition party. The administrative court in Cologne delivered its ruling in a long-running dispute between Alternatives for Germany, or AfD, 5 months after the national election in which the party secured a reduced but still solid 10.3% of the vote. The court found that there were significant indications of anti-constitutional aspirations inside the party. News agency DPA reported, judge found that the AfD's hard right faction known as the Wing has officially been dissolved, but prominent figures continue to exert significant influence. The AfD, which was formed in 2013, has moved steadily to the right over the years. Its platform initially centered on opposition to bailouts for struggling Eurozone members. On to our next story. The dancing world in Kyiv. The dancers are torn between body and mind, physically on stage in Paris, but in spirit back home in Kyiv. In other circumstances, the Kyiv City Ballet's residency at the Theatre du Chalet would be a dream come true, but the stranded company of young dancers feel little but heartbreak. We are both physically and emotionally exhausted. Ekaterina Kozlova, the company debut director, told the Associated Press. Everyone in the ballet is worried about their family, loved ones, friends, colleagues at home. It's very difficult. The Theatre du Chalet is in the heart of the French capital, offers them the stage on Tuesdays for the last show of the French tour that has left the company stranded after the war broke out in Ukraine. The dance director of the Paris Opera, along with some of her company's best, joined them for an open class before performing together a medley of ballet classics, with excerpts from Russian composer Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, Swan Lake, and The Nutcracker. Continuing on to our next story. The DNA of Dylan McDermott to reinvent the modern-day gangster began at childhood and carried through his struggling young actor days. When the Law and Order organized crime star says he was surrounded by the ilk, an unsavory type. McDermott, who grew up in New York, waited tables and tended bars, often serving local mobsters, where he observed their capricious behavior, he said. And when he was younger, he had an even closer relationship. My mother's boyfriend was a bank robber when I was growing up, McDermott told the Associated Press. They all ended up either dead or in prison, so there's no good stories there. He got his end, and it was not good. His parents split when the actor was a child, and his mother, Diane McDermott, died in what was ruled as an accidental shooting in 1967. In 2012, a reopened Waterbury, Connecticut police investigation concluded that she was killed by her now dead gangster boyfriend. Now a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned if you want the next story.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 daily local news update. I'm your host, Jasmine McTague. And now, the story of the hour. Ing Destrikhan, a Holocaust survivor who hid in Berlin during the Third Reich to escape deportation to Nazi death camp and later wrote an autobiography, has died. She was 99. Destrikhan died Wednesday in Berlin. Her foundation said in a statement, no cause of death was given. A long life of fighting for justice and against anti-Semitic and right-wing tendencies in our society has come to an end. The Ingrid Destrikhan Foundation said in a written statement, we are losing a combative friend. Destrikhan became known to a wider audience when she published her autobiography, I Wore the Yellow Star, about her dramatic survival story as a Jew in Berlin. She also visited countless schools into old age to tell the younger generations about the horrors she experienced under the Nazi. With her, we have lost an important Jewish contemporary witness of the National Socialist terror in our city, said the president of Berlin House of the Representatives, Dennis Brichner. On to our next story. Let's talk about some sports. A look at Wednesday for bubble team chasing NCAA tournament bids. Wake Forest meets Boston College in Wednesday's second round of the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament in New York. and the Demon Deacons 23-8 are playing more to avoid damaging their NCAA resume than to bolster it. The fifth-seeded Demon Deacons had no trouble in the first meeting, beating the Eagles 12-19 by the 30 points at home on January 24th. But the 23-win season came in a down year for the ACC, while the Demon Deacons are just 1 out of 4 in Quadrant 1 game and 4-3 in Quadrant 2, led by League Player of the Year Alondes Williams and the Coach of the Year Stephen Forbes. The Demon Deacons were one of the last 4 teams to avoid a play-in round in ESPN's mock bracket on Tuesday. There were a number 11 seed in the bracket matrix.com, averaging of 141 projected fields as of early Wednesday. Oregon, whatever chance the Ducks, 18-13, had begun with a Pac-12 tournament matchup against the Oregon State team that is a 3-27 a year after reaching the Elite Eight. Oregon lost its last 3 games and won't have leading scorer Will Richardson due to an illness. Continuing to our next story of the hour, which is continuing on sports. Alec Ovechkin scored twice and moved into a tie for the 3rd place on the NHL's career goals list. And Nick Dodd scored the go-ahead goal as the Washington Capitals rallied in the 3rd period to beat the Calgary Flames 5-4 on Tuesday night. Ovechkin's second goal into an empty net at 18-12 of the third that gave Washington a 5-3 lead was his 760th career goal, tying him with Jaromir Jagr for 3rd place in the NHL history. Wayne Gretzky leads the list with 894 goals, and Gordie Howe is second with 801. Obviously, it's always nicer to hear these kinds of milestone numbers, Ovechkin said. It's pretty big, obviously, and how I always said being with those names in the company, it's a pretty cool moment. The 36-year-old Ovechkin has 36 goals this season and has scored in 3 straight games. I think this guy are just excited for him, said Washington coach Peter Liletti. We don't talk about it much. I think everybody knows what's going on. It's awesome to be a part of it. And now our last story of the season, of the hour, and continuing on with the sports. Kevin Durant simply began clapping when asked about teammate Kyrie Irving's 50-point performance Tuesday night. That was masterclass, Durant said. Irving hit 9 3-pointers, and the Brooklyn Nets snapped a 4-game skid with a 132-121 win over the Charlotte Hornets. Irving became one of 22 players in the NBA history with a 50-point game, according to the Basketball Reference. His career high is 57 points on March 12, 2015, while playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the overtime win against San Antonio. Younger players should watch this game and learn what it takes to score at that level, Durant said. Durant had a quiet night by his lofty standards, finishing with 14 points, but he didn't have too much lifting, with Irving taking control most of the game. Irving, who has only been allowed to play in away games due to COVID-19 protocols in New York, finished 15 of 19 from the field and 9 of 12 from beyond the arc. He also was the 11 of 13 from the line. And this was the daily local news update of Millennium News 24/7. Log in to get the latest news. Our social networking websites are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Is Millennium News 24. Our YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers now on both network broadcasting, Android, iOS devices, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, also all smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment and latest news and views. Our Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA Android, and Millennium News Google, www.millenniumnews24.com. Stay with Millennium News 24, and thank you for watching.